Well, hello everyone. Cynthia Tomain with Interactive Brokers, and thank you for joining me today as we take a look at configuring your version of Trader Workstation. Uh, so with that, let's move right over into TWS. I'm going to bring up the Trader Workstation, and notice here, we're going to start off with the Mosaic interface. Um, but we will be covering both Mosaic and the classic version of TWS. Configuring TWS to suit your trading preferences, we'll be taking a look at our global configuration window here today. Now, different traders do have different needs, so the Interactive Broker Trader Workstation has been designed to allow you to customize the components in the Trader Workstation to suit your individual preferences. Now, when you first launch TWS, what you will see here is the Mosaic opens up. Mosaic happens to be a color linked. Notice here we do have linking icons that are included in the title bar, and this color linked pre-formatted workspace allows you to simply select a different ticker symbol from your watch list, and you'll see all of those linked windows will actually update. Now, this pre-configured workspace is configurable, and notice here it is locked by default so that you don't inadvertently close down some windows, but unlocking TWS will give you the ability to rearrange, resort, remove, or simply redesign the workspace to suit your individual needs. Now, also do want to point out in the lower left-hand corner of your screen, there's the classic version of TWS. Classic TWS includes a spreadsheet and allows for more complex order types and is available to legacy Trader Workstation users. You'll find we include quote monitor tabs at the top of the spreadsheet interface and where you can display your quotes and even create your orders all from this single spreadsheet interface. Now, I also do want to point out at the very bottom of the screen, notice there is a plus button here. Now, that plus tab will actually allow you to open up our layout library and view 24 different layout designs that can be added into your workspace, or you could create one of your own. Now, notice I'm simply going to go into open up the layout, and you'll find here that we now have 24 different pre-formatted layouts that you can add by simply, let's go into our stock scanner, for example. Just choose one of the layouts. You can look at and view the details for the window, or simply add it into your workspace. Once adding, you'll see it now appears as a separate tab down below on the TWS frame. So I did want to point that out. Similar to the Mosaic, you'll find, or the Mosaic pre-formatted workspace, notice here that this layout has been designed for stock screeners. It too is configurable using that lock layout button. So, and you can toggle between any of the layouts that you do have open. Now, before we get too much further, a couple of things that I did want to point out. And first of all is that any of these layouts include the defaults that you need to start trading. You can use the layouts as is or simply unlock with our unlock button at the top to make it your own. You can always add items or rearrange as you do find a need. Now, each work group or panel is customizable, and notice here that wherever you happen to see a configuration wrench included in the title bar of each of these separate windows here, it will allow you to add, remove, or configure what it is that you're looking at. Now, keep in mind that the frame for TWS, clicking this icon will take you to our global configuration window. But also, as a help, we do have individual windows with configurability. So if you want to configure your watch list, notice you can simply go into that configuration wrench. You want to add configuration choices or redesign how those charts will appear, the configuration wrench is there and available for you. Now, before we do get into configuring, a couple of things that I did want you to be aware of is, first of all, notice that when you open up TWS or go to the login menu, it actually is going to uh, save Trader Workstation automatically every time you exit the application. Now notice I'm going to go in and we'll start off with our global configuration window and go into the settings. Notice how that opens up a blank window, but over on the left-hand side, what you are going to see are general categories of information. Now we'll be going through each of their many of these categories here today, but I first want to start out with our lock and exit. Now I do not have these selected on my machine only because doing the webinars I don't want to automatically save any of the changes that I make immediately on exit. So I have deselected these. But if you take a look at your global configuration window, what you'll find is auto save settings is selected and to use or store your settings on our server. Now what these two items do mean is that when you exit Trader Workstation, all of the settings, any configuration choices you've made, any watch lists you've added or removed will be saved automatically, but they are saved locally on your machine. And notice that there's a second selection that's available that will allow you to use or store your settings on our server. Now, initially, when you log into Trader Workstation, a JTS folder is going to be located directly off the root of C. Notice I'm going to bring this up and we'll go into my local hard drive, and notice that JTS folder is created. That's where all of your settings, any configuration choices, any watch lists you've created, any of your order presets will all be saved. But remember, this is local. So where you do see, and I'm going to close that window out, where you do see to use or store your settings on the server, what that means is on exit of Trader Workstation, a copy of the settings that you've created will be stored on IB's server. They are only accessible by the user ID and password for your version of Trader Workstation. But by saving those to our server, it means that if you do happen to open up Trader Workstation from another machine, that with this setting selected, it will pull down all of those same settings that you have access or that you have previously used. So you get the same look and feel regardless of the computer that you've used to access the Trader Workstation platform. Okay, so with these settings selected, I don't have them selected, but you should, and that way everything will automatically be saved. Now, before I do leave this window, I also want you to see you do have the ability to save your watch list to the cloud. Not only watch lists, but market scanners are available as well. Now, saving those, notice that when you do have these checked, these will become available to you in any of our other trading platforms, whether it's our mobile applications for smartphone and tablets or the web trader feature. By saving your watch list or the market scanners to the clouds, you'll get access to those same configuration choices that you have made within TWS. Now also, once you do go to exit or the next time you open up TWS, if you see or you may have inadvertently saved some additional settings. So I want to point out that you can always go back and notice that under the File menu, there is a Layout and Settings Recovery. Now, I'm going to go into that window because if you happen to open up TWS and it looks very different from the way you left it, notice that by going into the Layout and Settings Recovery, that there is stored every day that you use Trader Workstation, you'll see an XML file for the day of the week. Now, we do save these 5 days of the week, and notice actually out till Saturday here as well. But what that means is that if you do open up Trader Workstation to a different look and feel, you could always go back to one of these prior settings. Now, you should be seeing this from Monday to Friday for every day, but do be aware they're only saved for a week, because the following Monday, for example, once you open up TWS, those settings will override the previous week. Now, by the way, notice here, there's also a custom setting that's available. Now, if you do go in Well, first of all, I'm going to go into the custom setting, and notice here I do want to point out that this is actually directly included in that JTS folder that I showed you previously. So that's where all of your settings are going to be stored. But, and notice here that you could pull up previous XML, and not the audit XML, but the XML settings on the previous page for the day of the week. Or if you do happen to choose to save or name your settings, notice here I've got one as of build 964. I could very easily, by simply selecting this, go back into those previous settings. So I did want you to be aware, before you do go in and start making configuration choices, save your settings as they are, and then if you do happen to make any configuration changes you're not happy with, you can always go into our file menu and choose to restore previous settings. So wanted you to see that as well. If you do want to save a custom setting, notice here you can save that setting as I just showed you, as of build 964, for example, or you could name that layout anything recognizable that you'll go back and access. So this will not, if you choose a custom saving or settings, notice I'm going to go in, and this once again is going to show me. And by the way, take a look at the layout folder, or look in that folder. We call this the D folder, and then there's a whole alphabet soup afterwards. But it is this folder that is unique to your user ID and password. By the way, I'm going to cancel out of this for a moment. If you hit Control, Alt, and U all at the same time on your machine, you'll see what your user directory is. And here's that D folder. By the way, you have separate settings for your paper account and your live trading account as well. All right, so wanted you to be aware of that. So if you have, or if you open up TWS to a different look and feel, remember you can go back, you can recover previous settings, or even go in and view prior settings as well. So wanted you to be aware, just in case you save over a setting, that you can go back to previous versions. Now, so with that underway, let's go back into that global configuration window. Now, notice here, when I open it up, you'll find that there are other items that are available. Now, global configuration, or all of our windows, will open up with the left navigation panel. And what I'm going to do is go directly into the general settings. What you select here, you'll see there's individual pages of settings that are available. And for example, notice that once I open that up, you'll see that certain items are selected by default. We do try and give you some default settings, but it's up to you how you want to configure or make TWS your own. Now notice for any of these items that include a question mark, that here, simply hovering over that question mark will pull up an additional tooltip so that you can learn more about what that setting is, or what you're about to enable or disable. Now notice you enabled, there's a check mark in front of the box, but you can simply click on that check mark and deselect it, which means you've just deactivated that particular selection. Now this is available for futures traders. Futures contracts will expire on a regular basis, whether it's monthly or quarterly. That data, or if you have included any future contracts in your watch list, you'll see question marks appear for the data once that contract expires. By auto rolling, it is the data only that will update automatically as each of your future contracts do approach expiration. On the last trading day, these will roll into the next futures contract, but it is the market data only. If you happen to hold a position, you'll either need to roll that position forward or close it out prior to expiration date for the contract that you've selected. There are other items that are included here, and you can take a look and take a look through and actually browse through any of these items, and make sure that you do use that question mark icon to get additional information. Now I'm going to point out hotkeys are also available on the platform. Now you can add hotkeys by simply choosing a selection and then going in, and by the way, if there's any warnings, you'll see those highlighted. But if you do want to create a hotkey, notice simply go in and choose, I'm going to, for example, choose change order to market. Then you can create that hotkey or a shortcut here by clicking the button. Now notice that this window will open up, and I'm going to hit, you'll see here, Control M. Now, once I hit that record button, then you will have to click Shift or Control and any of the 26 letters that are available on your keyboard. Notice I just added Control M. That will become the hotkey. And something to point out, when it's included at the top of the page, this means it's accessible throughout TWS. Although for certain optimized features, you'll find that there are tool-specific hotkeys that can also be created. Now, once you've created that hotkey, it then will become available for you, but I did want to point out there may be some additional items that you can add. For example, if you want to change your order to a market order, you may want to do that rather quickly. So you can choose to transmit that order instantaneously. Now, once you do select OK, you'll see that the asterisk that's included here indicates that this trade, or once you select that hotkey, you'll automatically change an existing order to a market order, and it will be transmitted. So be very careful with that. And by the way, remember these hotkeys do apply throughout the application. Now, anytime you're making changes in the global configuration window, notice there are two buttons that appear at the bottom. You can cancel, and your changes will not be affected or not be retained, but and you can navigate to other pages. Clicking the OK button will close down the configuration window. If you simply click Apply, you can then move to other windows and your changes will be accepted. So remember, if you are making changes, you want to at least apply. If that's all the changes you want, click OK and you'll get out of global configuration. We talked about the lock and exit section here, but I'm also going to point out messages. Now, messages in TWS will pop up depending on certain actions that you've taken. Now, all of the messages do include the ability to not display that message again. So if you've deactivated certain messages, for example, a order confirmation window, here is where you can come back and simply reactivate the message. For example, I'll choose auto cancel date and notice over to the right hand side, once you've enabled that and click apply, that message will then pop up or become available to you once again. There's also different sounds that work through TWS to alert you to certain items. You'll see by default you do have a voice that's going to identify certain actions that are have been taken or trades that may have filled. But notice that you have a choice whether to listen to the voice or not. You can also change some of the different sounds that are available. So if you do want to work with that, here's under our general global configuration items are displayed. Option traders. Option traders do have the choice under volatility and analytics to show volatility in either an annual or a daily basis. If you happen to be trading any of those weekly options, you may want to make that selection here. But remember, it will apply throughout the rest of TWS. Other choices are available, and you can simply click to select or deselect any of the items that are included on this page. Now, I'm going to jump over into the display section here because this is how you can configure TWS or the general configuration for the window. Now, notice that where there is a plus, simply clicking that plus will expand that item into each of the individual pages. We'll go into the settings page, for example, and notice here, once again, there are several items that will be displayed, and those that are selected by default, you can enable or disable depending on your choices. Option traders may want to add background shading. Then throughout the platform, any place that you have an option contract displayed, it will show you in the money background shading, it has light green, or out of the money background shading for your option contracts, which will display in light red. Now, if you don't make any changes, you can move directly into the style. Now, I do want to point out here, notice that by default, you won't see grid lines in any of your tables, but you can simply add those grid lines with a simple checkbox here. Notice additional selections, or, for example, if you do want to alternate brightness according to your any of the lists that you create in TWS, you can do that as well. You can also increase or decrease the font size from within the global configuration, or notice it's also available in Mosaic with an icon that's included in our anchor toolbar. Now, also do want to point out there are different palettes available for TWS. I happen to like the classic palette, which includes that dark blue title bar. That, for these webinars, tends to show you or allow the different windows to stand out. You'll find that by default, you first start off with a dark palette, which is a dark background with white text. We also do have a light palette that's available, but keep in mind that if you do make a choice here, once you have applied that choice, it does require a restart before that overall palette for TWS will actually change. Now, what I'm going to do is go into the ticker row settings. There's quite a few selections that are available here, and again, I'm not trying to point out to different traders, but notice if you are an options trader that with our multiple scanners that we have available, stock scanners if you're looking for possible trading opportunities, different watch lists that are predefined and pre-created, you can also choose to display stocks with available option contracts as bolded in any of those lists. Simply put a check mark in front of that box. Now, also on here, on this page, what I am going to do, there is a double click on the financial instrument column. Now, typically you'll see, or by default, that will open up a blank box so you can re-add a new ticker symbol in it. But if you do notice here, you can also choose to open the contract details. I've already made that change, so now what I'm going to do, well, first of all, I'm going to put my push pin icon, which will anchor this window on top, and let's go into Google, for example. Simply double-clicking that financial instrument, notice how it's going to open up a window with details on the ticker symbol that you've just selected. Now you'll see what's displayed here. Notice that it's going to show you the international identifier number, also the exchange. Now notice when you do set your ticker symbols up, we do require an exchange or a routing destination. That way everything that's necessary to trade this particular ticker symbol will actually be displayed on the screen. And different routing destinations, also want to point out we do have smart routing technology. If you select smart when adding ticker symbols to your watch list, you're setting those trades up for that smart routing technology, but it also does display the home exchange. Additional information is available here, including different trading hours. Now I'm going to close out of that window because other ticker symbols, notice here, if I go into Microsoft, where there is fundamental analysis that's available in TWS, you'll see this window opens to expand certain fundamental or financial ratios that are available. Notice that we do include the basic information that's here, but there's also those financial ratios. By the way, this is available at no additional charge. It's powered by Thomson Reuters Worldwide Fundamentals, which is available at no additional charge on your platform. So making that selection, by the way, when you do double click on the ticker symbol, I'm going to minimize this, it will actually open up that descriptive window. Here's another. I happen to have a futures contract. So notice I'm going to open up the futures contract here, and this time that details window will give me Notice that I do have the future. You'll see the contract month as well as that last trading day. So I wanted you to be aware of that. Additionally, let me see, I'm going to put in here the E-mini S&P. Now notice when I do click ES after typing the ticker symbol, I'm presented with a floating menu for me to choose the instrument type. Notice here I could choose Eversource, which happens to be a corporation that trades on the New York Stock Exchange. Now, notice that by selecting Smart, you're enabling our smart routing technology, so you can make that selection here. But if it's a futures contract that you're looking for, what I'm going to do is pull up the futures contract, and notice here, we'll go out to the since the June contract will expire next week, I may want to take a look at the September contract. So notice how that now has been displayed in my monitor list. But if I double click, notice what you'll see here on this particular window is not only the basic information about that ticker symbol, including the hours of operation and virtual 24-hour market, but also notice that the current margin requirements will be included here. By the way, the difference between taking a look, I do want to point out, I have an individual contract here where previously looking at the oil, it was a continuous futures contract. I didn't have all of that current margin information. Margin is applied on each individual contract that you're going to be trading. And notice what it does show you here is intraday during active market hours, what the initial margin requirement will be, as well as for you to enter a position, but also the amount of equity that you must maintain within your account in order to meet that intraday maintenance margin. Notice how it jumps overnight. So this is a very helpful screen for that additional information. Okay, I'm going to close that out and also show you that, on here, I'm going to go in because you can also configure your home exchange. I'm going to clear this box and let's go ahead and click OK. And now notice what I've just, I didn't hit apply. So I'm going to come down and hit apply. And now I want to move this out of the way. What you will see added here is for every ticker symbol that you enter, the exchange, that home exchange is going to be displayed. It appears in gray and in a smaller text on the background, but if you typically trade those products on a consistent, for example, I've got some U.S. products listed here, notice that what I can do is identify that home exchange group. Going into the configure menu, notice here, there are different global regions or exchange groups. Or you could even choose any direct exchanges that you want to activate. But I'm going to go ahead and include the U.S. stocks, that's where I happen to be, and click OK. Once I do hit apply at the bottom of this screen, notice what happens in my watch list is that that exchange, that home exchange, is no longer listed. Now I do want to point out, let's go ahead and we're going to add well, I'll go ahead and click OK right now. And what I'm going to do is add ABT. ABT that trades on the New York Stock Exchange. Notice here I can add ABT and no exchange is listed. It's part of that home exchange group. But if I do want to trade ABT as available on the Toronto Exchange, notice here, I'll simply select ABT. And now you'll notice that while these are two different ticker symbols, you can tell by that exchange group which one's the Canadian product and which one's the U.S. or your home exchange product. Now, when you do add those ticker symbols, and notice I'm going to pull up ABT, for example, one more time, you'll see that you do get multiple different choices here. If you'd rather not see those choices, another configuration choice you can make is going into the settings, and we'll go back into our display. And this time I'm going to go into the contract selector, not the ticker row, back into the contract selector. And notice that if you trade, if you're only going to be trading U.S. products, you can simply put a check mark in front. Well, you'll have to enable this first, and then put a check mark in front of the box. That will eliminate those multiple selections in the floating menu every time that you do add a separate ticker symbol. Okay, just remember, if you have made these selections, you are going to want to scroll to the very bottom of the screen and make sure you click Apply and OK before moving on. Now, back in the ticker row settings, I do want to point out additional features are available. If you're a fixed income trader, you can choose to show bonds in dollar increments, or for example, here, I have this displayed as 1K or 1,000 size increments, or notice here, that's a choice you can make. Fixed income pricing will allow you to see the net price with bonds that trade on multiple alternative trading systems. There is a net price that will include any of those exchange fees available at, or depending on the routing venue that you do transmit that trade to, or you could show the raw price. If you want additional information, remember there's quite a bit available in our user guide, or simply on this page, hover over the question mark icon. Now, other items that are included here, for example, positive gain and loss information. You'll see that background shading is used throughout TWS to give you an idea or at a glance information whether any positive or any P&L movement, and notice how it's displayed in your watch list. Positive movement is, the background is coded green, where negative movement is going to be coded red. Now, by default, you'll see you can go in. I'm going to go in and click OK, and notice that there are some predefined colors if you happen to be working in our dark palette. Now, I happen to like the brighter color, so simply clicking that change button, you'll see we do have some predefined colors that are there. So I'm simply going to make those selections, or you could choose any of the choices here, and then simply click OK. Scrolling down this page, complex spread or multi-leg positions can also be grouped into a complex position for a single line item entry. And once again, notice each of these items can be selected here, and just make sure, I'm going to try and collapse this window so I can get down to the Apply and OK button on this screen. There's quite a few items that are available, so do take a few minutes and take a look at how you may want to configure TWS. Now, I'm going to click Apply now that I've made those changes, and I do want to also show you, you can change the date format or even choose what you want on your toolbar. Now, the toolbar that's indicated here is actually the toolbar, the quick access toolbar that's included in Trader Workstation, or the classic version of TWS. Just so, and notice here, everything that's selected will appear in that quick access toolbar. So you can choose, and notice that if there are certain features that you want to be able to access, for example, our information system, simply put a check mark in front of that box, click Apply, and then OK, and you'll see that, let me see, what did I just add here? Let me go back in, because, by the way, a right-click will also allow you to configure the toolbar. And, oh, it was the information system. And you'll see here, and that icon has just been added for news or fundamental market data. So you can add and remove very easily once you've added those quick access toolbars. Notice that a right-click, I'm going to right-click here, will allow you to configure this, or actually even remove it from the platform, now, or remove it from your toolbar that's displayed. Notice here you can also choose if you want the price change included as a value or a percentage. So when in doubt, or if you're looking for something, that right-click menu will get you or intuitive choices in that floating menu that does appear. Okay, so we've been through the global configuration window just for the overall information that's displayed. Now, uh, so keep in mind that you have the ability to configure any of these windows. Notice I'm going to go into my chart icon or my chart panel, and while it does say configure font, notice that if I do drill down, this time what I'm looking at is that same global configuration screen, but what you'll see here is that it's opened up directly into the chart feature that's available, where once again you can make your choices, either enable or disable any of the items that appear on this screen. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and I want to stop for a moment and see if there are any questions that you might have. Okay, if you have a question about configuring a certain item, make sure you do let me know via that question panel. So let's go back in now that we are within the Trader Workstation once again. I do want you to see that let's go in, for example, order entry. Now, when you're creating your orders, notice here that all of the available order types for the instrument that you selected will appear on this screen. Now notice that you can go in and I'm going to go ahead and we'll go with Microsoft, for example. Notice that while I do have Microsoft appearing in my watch list, I am seeing the last price at which the contract traded, and notice the tick dot here gives you directional movement. Green indicates if the last trade was done on an uptick, whereas a red tick dot indicates the last trade was on a downtick. Now, you'll see that we do display just the last price as well as the change in price since previous business day, both as an absolute value and the percentage that it represents. Now, additional information, for example, more quote details are included in the quote details screen over on the left-hand side of the screen. Now, notice here, because of that color linking icon, we're looking at the information for Microsoft. If I do go back in and let's choose Twitter, for example, I'll simply make my selection here and notice how each of these windows do update. Now, order entry, I do want to point out the consolidated button. The consolidated button is a recent addition to Trader Workstation, and that's because of the way market data is now provided. You will have to subscribe to those markets that you use on a regular basis in order to receive real-time quotes on the platform. Now, for stocks, there are 3 different exchange-specific market data subscriptions that are necessary to receive streaming quotes. For example, there's the NYSE subscription, also known as Network A. You can subscribe to only ARCA or Amex quotes for those stocks. That's included as Network B, and NASDAQ stocks would be Network C. So you would have to subscribe to all of those in order to receive real-time quotes or the national best bid and offer. Now, what we've recently done, and the addition of that consolidated button, allows you to subscribe to a snapshot bundle. Now, if you do, that snapshot bundle is a subscription that doesn't provide streaming data, but allows for real-time calculated snapshots of U.S. markets with the NBBO. Let me get off my shortable feature here. Now, if you don't subscribe individually to all of those different networks, notice that when you click on the consolidated button, what it will do is provide you with a single snapshot quote. Now, I do want to point out each snapshot costs a penny. Instead of subscribing to all of those exchanges, if you don't need the real-time quotes, using that snapshot subscription can save you some money. Now, I did mention that it does cost a penny each time you bring up that snapshot, and by the way, it applies to both live and paper accounts. Now, if the monthly fee for whatever exchange has or if you click enough times to get that consolidated quote, once you do reach what that normal monthly subscription charge will be, it's capped and no additional cost will be incurred. But it's only capped for that month. Once you reach the end of the month and start a new month, that snapshot will again cost you a penny per quote. But what it does do is it supplies a national best bidder offer directly within TWS. More information, take a look at a snapshot or consolidated quote button available in our user guide. User guide. How do you access the user guide? Well, let me quickly show you. You can go into the help menu here, guides and documentation, and there's an online user guide that's available. You'll also see that we do have multiple different sections here that can be expanded on, but I do want to point out there's some terrific search feature. So if it's something that you're looking for individually, type it within the search field and then click search, and TWS will automatically pull up all pages in the user guide where that particular keyword is described. And so I did want you to see it is available in real time. Well, let's get back into the Trader Workstation once again. Now, within this screen, notice here that everything you need to initiate trades is already available in the order entry screen. You will have to click buy, which notice what happens when I choose the buy button. Background shading is blue, or if I choose sell, background shading is green. Now something, or not green, red, I must be colorblind here. I'm looking at that button. Now I do want you to be aware that shortable, if you are going to be shorting stocks, now TWS, if you happen to have a position in this underlying, it will be displayed within this window. If you're going to sell and there is no position held in your account, TWS will recognize that as a short sale. And you do need to be aware whether there is sufficient number of shares available in order for you to put on that short. Notice there are different colors here that will give you that information, so I did want you to see it is available. But I'm going to go back to the buy button here, and notice now there is an order entry screen or order entry row that's available. You'll see default quantities will appear here, and we'll talk a little bit later about doing presets. Now we do have presets on the platform, but until you determine what preset order values you want, it will automatically load with the default amount for the instrument that you're trading. Equities, it's 100 shares. Options and futures, it's a single contract each. Now, notice different order types are available as well, but when you click that drop-down button, only certain order types are displayed. Now, these are the ones that you use on a consistent basis. But remember that drop-down arrow indicates that additional choices are available. Notice here, once I do expand that list, there's other order types that I could access. For example, if I want to pull up a trailing stop, if I do want to set this as a trailing stop, well, let me go to a contract where I hold a position. Let me navigate away for a minute. I think I do have a position. No, I don't have a position. Well, let's go into my portfolio. And what I will do, I do have a position in IBM. So notice when I do hold a position in the portfolio, it too is included in that order entry screen. Now, if I do go back, now that I've activated the trailing stop, notice what I can do is set. I'm going to first of all go into the cell, and in this case here, you can simply click on that position and it will populate into your order entry panel. Now, notice when I set up the trailing stop, I've got different fields that will automatically activate. You'll see here that that trailing stop, you can actually or it will, once you enter it, it will set that trailing amount $1 below your current price. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, simply choose my stop election price, and we're going to keep this a little bit away from the market here. Well, what I'm going to do is take this away from the market, and notice that it will set that trailing amount a dollar below. Now, once I do, and by the way, notice different order times in force are available. And what I'm going to do here is go into, we'll create that good till cancel, and then in the advanced button, what I'm going to do here is simply choose to save this. Saving that item, okay, notice here, it puts it into your activity monitoring window, but it has not been transmitted. Now, what I do want you to see is that even the order or the activity monitoring panel is configurable as well. There's that configuration wrench. Now, whether you go in via the configuration wrench or simply hover over any of the column headers, you'll find you can insert or remove additional columns. Now, something that's helpful if you are doing a trailing stop is, well, that stop will actually trail the market once you do enter that trade. While the trade is working, excuse me a minute. While that trade is working, that as long as there is upward movement, and notice here, I'm going to simply, let me come in here. Well, let me, what I'm going to do, well, let me see. It's not going to allow me to do that. I could go back and make an adjustment on this, or I could make the adjustment down in the activity monitoring panel. But what I wanted you to see is that, notice that trailing amount is set at $1 off of the current market. As the markets do move up, so does your trailing amount. But as soon as the market ticks against that position, that stop election price is locked in. But you don't know where it's going to trade. So simply going or hovering, notice I could insert an additional column, or in other words, I could configure this window to add prices, and I'm going to add that stop election price. So now notice that we do have that stop price included here. So when I do go to transmit that trade, we're going to override and transmit right now. As the markets move up, so does my stop election price. But you'll see here, when the market does tick against it, that stop election price is locked in, so you know where it is going to trigger. So I did want to point that out. Even each of these windows are configurable as well. So now, by the way, remember the user guide. All of our order types are described on the website. Underneath the trading menu, there's an order types and algos window where it does link up or will provide you with some optional fields that you may want to activate in your activity monitoring screen. So simply go into the user guide. You can choose to activate those fields or not. Okay, will you get okay, let me see. Thomas has a question. Will you get a warning indication if you try to enter a short trade on a stock with a down tick? Well, you can enter that trade, but now that warning, what there will be, Thomas, and I think this is what you're alluding to, is that if there happens to be a short sale restriction, you'll see that within any of our windows. And I think I have one with our U.S. movers. Notice here, well, let me see. I'm going to go to a different, let me simply pull up, I did have some different ticker symbols. Well, let's go in. I'm going to go into the market scanner. And by the way, market scanners can also be configured as well. But we'll go into the various movers, and I'm just going to use, notice here, we'll go with the default for this item, and you'll see that short sale restriction. So if you can only enter a trade on a down tick, you'll see that will be displayed wherever you have that ticker symbol listed. By the way, notice here you can go in and customize your market scanners and add from any of our market data fields that we do provide that are available here. I'm not going to go into the scanner. There's a recording we just did yesterday, so you can go and take a look at that. But I thought that might be what you're looking for, Thomas. Is that short sale restriction. By the way, if there is, and notice here, if I put that ticker symbol in, that is going to be displayed, and you'll see notice here that if there's sufficient number of shares to sell short, will be listed here as well. Okay, well so that's with your order entry window. Just keep in mind, once you've entered orders here, you can view those orders, you can modify those orders, or you can send a cancellation request, and I'm going to cancel that particular trade. Okay, now what I'm going to do, and we're going to keep fewer tickers on this particular page to decrease the latency that you're experiencing here. Now, also want you to see that you can configure, you can add or remove items from within the Mosaic interface by simply going to that layout or unlock the layout. As soon as you unlock the layout, notice what displays is TWS is going to have that bright green background shading, and we have unlocked the layout for the Mosaic. Now notice what I can do at this point is simply click and drag and reposition, and by the way, these items will also snap to notice here, I'm going to bring this over to the side, and what I've just done is moved my charts and my quote monitor details around. You can add additional columns from within the new window button. Say, for example, I may want to see time and sales, so I'll simply activate time and sales. It will open up that window. Let's go ahead with trade prices and sizes, and notice how that window has been added. If you simply click, notice I can click and drag the outer borders and create a window or size that window. And I may also want to simply size, and notice so I'm going to take my quote monitor list so I can add this particular item, and then simply, once I've added it, as you do or after you've created that particular layout, you do need to lock the window once again. So notice here, clicking that layout lock will actually allow you to, now we cannot move the information or inadvertently close out any of the items that appear on this screen. So the layout, so keep in mind that you can organize the page. If there's certain items that you use on a regular basis, you can access those from the new window. Also want to point out, notice that if we do go into or as you're making some selections here, there's some choices, and let me see, I think it's well, I do want notice here, if you do add or make a selection from the window, this you can add to any of your layouts by simply, or this will add a window where, if you're going to add any additional information, let me see, level 2, I may go to, well, there's, let's go into some of our more advanced tools. For example, let me see here, I think the market depth trader. Well, there used to be one that will actually show you a separate tab. Now, that may be something that we have to activate within the classic version of TWS. So if you do want to add, notice here, to add additional tools in classic TWS, you can simply choose to add more buttons. And what I'm going to do here is choose, let me see, we'll go into those rollover options, and you'll see that that now has been added onto my screen. So you can always add or remove any of these additional windows. By the way, with the different trading tools that are available, notice here, well, it's not even showing us this, our market depth trader, where you can add it as a separate tab. So I'm not locating one, but if you do see not a windowed icon, but a tab, what that means is you can add it as a separate tab within the classic version of TWS. So I'm going to close out of that. And let's go back into the Mosaic here for a bit. Now, by the way, I happen to have an individual account, but if you have an advisor account where you can access multiple or access and trade for multiple clients, what you will see is an account selector that will appear up in your order entry window, where you'll need to make your account selection for any of the trades that you are creating. So I did want to point that out. Even advisors can trade from the Mosaic. Now, also want you to see, notice that within our news, each of these windows is configurable, and you can add additional tabs included here. And notice when I click this drop-down menu or click that plus tab, there's some additional items that I could select to include. For example, market signals I've certainly added, or I'm going to move, I have a separate window here. Let's go in. I could add social sentiment. So you can add each of these windows or add additional tabs for specific news providers here. We've got market signals that are available, stock twits, but then too, you can even go into that configuration wrench and choose your settings. And notice here, you do have, we've opened up global configuration window again, where you can choose what it is that you want to display. For example, I may want this to show portfolio or watch list information. I could choose just the portfolio companies, all companies in my quote monitor list, or even provide a custom ticker list. Just remember, when making those configuration choices, make sure you click apply and then OK. I'm not going to retain those, so I'm simply going to send a cancellation and we're out of that window. Let me see, any other questions on configuring in TWS? Go ahead and put those into the chat panel. Now, one item that I did want to point out that is available, and let's quickly go into Trader Workstation or into the class. Oh, notice here. I've done something inadvertently, and you'll see at the very bottom of my screen, I was able to detach a single page where I did have classic TWS and Mosaic previously. So if that happens to you, simply click and drag these windows, and notice I can pull up each of those pages. So I've simply reattached those pages. So I did want you to see that's available. Also, remember everything that we were just talking about with the Mosaic. If you do go into create, or you can customize a layout, notice here I'll simply call this, first of all, we'll call it a test layout. And now I could go in and you'll see that test layout has been provided. And now I have a blank window where I can go to the new window button and choose from any of these items that I may want to display. Now notice that the Mosaic windows, these smaller windows, will provide you the ability to go in. We could add a separate watch list. Notice here I may add a watch list that's included. I could open up existing watch lists. I could add those onto this window or populate them differently. I'm simply going to close out on that one. We can go back into that window, add a chart to the page. Let me go into the chart and we'll add a real-time chart. And notice now with each of these, as you're adding them, that color linking icon is also included here. Now you can click and drag, you can resize the information that you do want, and once you have, remember, once you've got that setting created, simply go back in and lock that layout, and it now becomes a separate layout for you to toggle between any of these layouts on the very bottom. Now I'm coming back into the classic version of TWS because I did want to point out that color linking icon. Notice here you can go in and simply, we're going to use that drop down arrow and drop down again. Let me see. Or, oh, it's a right click, sorry, not a left click, but a right click on that color linking icon, which if you do create separate different windows here, you can choose a separate color to link your ticker selection with any of the additional windows that you've added to layout or a personalized layout that you have created. Okay, now before we do wrap up today, can you trade from any layout you save? Oh, absolutely, Thomas. Notice if we do go into that stock screener layout, you will, though, have to add the order entry screen. You'll see in the pre-formatted layout, that order entry panel is available. I forgot to add it to this one, so I'm going to come back, unlock the layout, and what I'll do here is simply go into the New Window button, and notice that I can add that order entry panel. So here I've got order entry, and by the way, you might also want to add your order management panel or that activity monitor as well. So I've now added that into the window. You can expand, you can customize each of these, and then once you're finished, then lock the layout. It is this order entry panel that's necessary in any of the additional layouts that you add that will allow you to trade directly from this window. So notice here, and because of that color linking icon, I could go in and let's choose, I'll go back to Twitter for a moment, and you'll see that time and sales, the chart, as well as my order entry panel have all now updated based on the ticker symbol that I selected. Good question, Thomas, thanks. Okay, well, let's go back into these basic layouts and did want you to see that there are order presets that are available throughout the platform. Now, what I'm going to do is go into Classic TWS because you'll find you have limited preset abilities within the Mosaic window. But from here, what you can do is go into our order presets. Now, global configuration into the settings, you'll see this left navigation panel will allow you to go in and choose different presets. Now, as I go in, I'm going to click on the the higher level, which you'll see here for presets that I've already let's go in. I've already made some changes here. But basically, throughout the platform, when you do go to trade, you'll find that the default trade is a day limit order and set at the ask price for a buy or the bid price for a sell. Now, here is where you can make, instead of when you do go in to create that order, and notice here, I'm going to go into Bank of America, for example. If I click a buy, you'll see that it does automatically populate with that order row that appears with those basic defaults. 100 shares of the underlying, it's a day, time and forth, and a limit order set at the ask price that was clicked in order to create that trade. Now, if that's how you want to place the trade, keep in mind, you can always go in and make adjustments to the quantity. I might make let's go ahead and we'll make that 1,000 shares. We can make these adjustments to a good till cancel and then transmit that trade. You can even, and let's take this a few pennies away from the market and simply transmit your order from here. But if you do, once you become accustomed to the system, you can set order presets here instead of having to make those adjustments every time that you do go to create an order with what we call our quick click order entry. Now, going into global configuration for your order presets, it does give you the ability to select, instead of a day order, a good till cancel order. But before you do, keep in mind, you do need to make that selection for each instrument type that you do want to trade. Now, I'm going to come into stocks, and you'll see, by the way, I'm going to make this. Notice here, I use the Make Active button, which identifies all of my equity trades as a day order for 100 shares. And you'll see the clickable column here is set as the limit order. The clickable field is an ask price, and that's how you create a buy order. But you can make some adjustments here or create different presets, and simply by clicking the preset button. I'm going to call this a test preset, and you'll see it's now been added to multiple different presets. Now, I've already gone through and made some adjustments here. So I did want to show you, for example, you can, instead of when you click on the ask price, instead of using the ask price, notice you can set an offset. I'm going to take this 2 pennies away from the ask price, and notice here how it is setting a 2-cent offset. Now, also notice that I could create or could adjust, and we may want to put this to 500 shares. So I'll make that 500 shares and then simply click apply. Now, once I have applied that, notice that that offset, I could make that the default offset. I'm going to go ahead and ignore this page. What this window is telling you, do you want to apply this to any other presets you've created? For right now, I don't, so I'm going to simply ignore these and save this. Now, you'll see that when we do go into create, and let's put this on a good till cancel, we'll apply once again, and so what I will do here is make that the active item. So now when I click apply and OK, we'll go back. I'm going to discard that particular trade. And this time, going into Bank of America, notice when I click on 2364, it's subtracted 2 cents from that. That will allow me to then trade based on my trading preferences. Notice here how the quantity has been set at 500. It's a good till cancel trade, and I could simply transmit from here. Now, transmitting that order, you'll see your order confirmation window opens up, so you can verify all of that and then simply transmit the trade. It looks like OK, here's one of those good till cancel. So I'm going to select OK, and you'll see that that's now been activated here, available by that order status color. But there are other order types that can also be added. Now, what I'm going to do is simply choose to cancel this trade. And in this case, we'll go back into our order presets and go into those settings. Let me go into the presets for equities, and you'll see here that I've also got a percentage bracket. Well, I'm going to choose that, and we'll make that the active preset. So what that will do is notice, and we'll make this good till cancel once again. I'm going to click apply. This time, I have a quantity set of 1,000 shares, and what you'll see is that as I come down, notice that primary order, we're still going to use that 2 cent offset, but at the very bottom, we have different order types that are available. A profit-taking limit order can be attached, as well as a protective stop. Now, while you can, and notice here that if you've activated these, you have a different order type. We can go with our profit-taking limit order, and notice that what I did put in here was 10, and instead of the absolute amount, notice that you can select a percentage. So instead of TWS calculating a for example, $1 above and $1 below for your profit-taking limit order and protective stop. In this case, you can set it up as a percentage. I'm going to create my profit-taking limit order as 10% above and 5% below for my stop price. Now, when I do go in, I'm going to go ahead and click apply. Notice that when I go to create that order, let's go back, and I'm going to pick on Bank of America once again, this time because I activated the order type. Let's go into our presets, and I'm going to simply right-click here to go into the preset. Notice that it did subtract the 2 cents, but I did have the actual order types displayed. Now, if I want this to be the default for all of my bracket trades, notice what I can do instead of, or by selecting the order type, you make it the default for all your trades. By selecting none, notice how it does save that your selection here, and I'm also going to keep this at none, and then click apply and OK. So what will happen this time, we go in, I'm going to create another, well, notice that I clicked on the ask price, it only created a buy order. But if I right click and choose to attach a bracket trade, notice that what it did, instead of giving me that $1 above and $1 below, here what we're seeing is that notice my profit-taking limit order is set at 10% above where my parent price is. I don't have the stop election field, so what I will do is come in here and go into the, I'm going to insert a column, and we'll put that stop price in, simply select yes. And you'll see now my stop price has been displayed. I'm going to move that over. So in this case, I've got a percentage bracket instead of the absolute amount of the trade. So just a quick way, an example of what you can do with those brackets or those order presets. Now also, as we go into the order presets, I'm going to pull up, well, let me see, I do have, I have to agree, I'm just going to move I'm going to move both of these columns. And notice now that I do have that displayed. But let's go into the E-mini S&P. Now, a future contract, as you go into your, let me see here, I'm going to go in, and if you do create an order, notice how, I've already got an order that's displayed. Well, let's go back into our order presets very quickly so that you can see. I'm going to expand the presets and futures. I've created a preset for the future contracts. Now notice when I expand here, instead of giving me an absolute amount, notice that you can set your presets for futures as tick increments. So for example, we're an E-mini S&P, trades at 25-cent tick amounts. You can set your order presets to as an offset by a tick amount, but also notice that down below you can also specify the number of ticks for your profit-taking limit order, as well as the number of ticks off that off that stop. Now, because this has already been set up, let's click Apply, and we'll ignore, and then OK. Now, you'll see here that by activating, and I'm going to deactivate that order type, we'll click Apply, ignore, and OK. And what that's going to do, let's cancel this out or discard this particular trade. So now if I do want to create that bracket order, what I'll do is I'll simply, I must have something activated in there. But you'll see here that what it did do was it created that bracket trade, and notice that instead of a dollar amount at a 25-cent tick, $2.50 above means it's 10 ticks above for my profit-taking limit order, as well as $1.25 or 5 ticks below the current market price. So something to take a look at with those order presets. By the way, if you are going to work with those presets, make sure you do that within your paper account as well. Okay, I would like to open this up to any of your questions now. And let me see if you do have questions. Okay. All right, let me see, Thomas has a question. Can you trade from any layout? And yes, you can, as long as you add that order entry panel when you're creating those new layouts. The ones that are pre-formatted, if you click through the layout editor, they all include an order entry panel, but if you're creating or customizing your own panel, just make sure you add both the order entry and the activity monitor or order management section. Cannot see a stock scanner tab. Okay. Well, let me see. What I'm going to do first of all here is I'm going to choose the cancel button, and I'm going to cancel or send a cancellation request for all orders on this page. By the way, here those messages that pop up, and keep in mind you can choose not to display them by simply putting a check mark in front of that box. Okay, Peter was asking about a stock screener tab. Well, what you will find, and we're in Mosaic here, notice that you can go under the that drop-down arrow, and you can add additional buttons onto the quick access toolbar here. So notice that I'm going to come down, and I believe there is a market scanner. Let me see. Well, if it's not appearing on the list, let's go into add more buttons. As I go in, we're going to configure and add some additional buttons. So notice now, let me see, where's my, it it was disabled. So here I can find that. It just means I haven't used it from this window. So I'm going to open up the Market Scanner feature. Now notice how this opens up in a separate window, or what you could do, and what I'm going to do here is go into the notice that I could also, using this drop-down menu, well, let me see here, I need to right-click on that page. Well, to access the market scanners, notice that it has been added as a item. Let me see, where does it appear within my toolbar here? Did we add that? Let me go in. Once I've activated that, no, I don't want to configure this. Well, we could also go in and configure down. So let me close out of this. Okay, I'm going to go into configure my toolbar here. And so you could add any of these items or simply pull them up from this screen. Now, let me see. It is a right click on the plus sign. That's where it's actually located, where you could add an advanced market scanner. Now, if you add a market scanner individually, it opened up that separate tab, and it should be available down on my toolbar. Or notice that I could add a tab now for the market scanner. So here is the advanced market scanner. So it's all from that plus icon that's included at the for your quote monitor tabs. In classic TWS, it's a right click on that item that will add the advanced market scanner. If you go into the Mosaic and you want to access the market scanners, notice simply left click and you can go into the market scanner tab from here. It's a separate tab, so it's not an additional window, and can easily be added to any of your layouts. Simply go in and notice here I might want to pull up a we'll pull up US Most Active, and you'll see that will then display and also create a new tab on the screen. Okay, so you've got that. All right, well, very good. Any additional questions? Now's the time to put them into the chat panel and we'll get to those. Otherwise, we are coming to the end of today's session. Now, just keep in mind that one thing I do want to reiterate is that if you are making any changes, when you do exit TWS, it will automatically save those. So do keep that in mind. It's part of those features. So the next time you launch Trader Workstation, it'll open up to your preferred configuration. Well, with that, looks like there are no additional questions. So what I'm going to do is take us back and end today's session. I do want to remind you that we have been recording, and you'll get access to today's playback soon after the session ends. And it will also be sending out a follow-up message with, to find the webinar notes that are available. What I will quickly do is take you back into the Interactive Brokers website so that you can find not only today's information. Let me see if this latency can catch up with you in just a minute. It will reopen. Go underneath the education menu into our webinars and short videos. And now notice here that there are, we have live and recorded webinars that are available. Clicking through this button, it will open up to a page where you can find yesterday's webinar and previous webinars that we have done. Now, I do want to point out, notice here, there will be will also give you access to the webinar notes. And what I'm trying to do is get back to a previous configuration. Well, I'm not seeing it listed here, but I do want you to be aware that webinar notes will be available for today's session as well. I'll include those in the follow-up, and they will be displayed on this page where you can simply click those notes links and view the webinar notes, or utilize this as an additional field or additional information as you are going through the configuration choices that we did make here today. So now with that, looks like, let me see, paper trading account reflect real-time data. Okay, when you subscribe subscribe to a market data plan, Thomas's question is, will that paper account reflect real-time data? Yes, it will. Now, and it's included at no additional charge. When you do create a paper account, and if you haven't already, notice that under the account menu, this selection here will actually take you into account management where you can request a paper account. Now that paper account will mirror the same market data permissions you've subscribed to for your live account. So it will be available, but you're not charged. We just mirror that for your paper account. But what that means is that only a single device, whether it's your live account or your paper account, will get active market quotes at any one time on the platform. So just keep that in mind. Market data is available on a single device, whether you're using TWS or if you log into any of our smartphone or tablet applications. Those mobile apps will log you out of TWS in order for you to get real-time quotes in any of those platforms. So yes, paper account will reflect the same market data subscriptions, so there's no additional cost for opening up that paper account. All right. Well, looks like we are concluding today's session. I want to thank all of you for participating with me here today. And it's Friday, so everyone have a great weekend. And please all do remember to trade smart. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.